the word on the street. What really happened? How did I get cut? What substance was it with the Cowboys? And not even seeing that I was falling to complete pieces. You know, I couldn't even see it. Took myself out the drug program because I told the NFL, hey, if the Cowboys, if we can't have a little court hearing or whatever, then why am I going to be taking tests for you?
Connect with us on the Emotion Wellness Podcast for a transformative journey of human connection. Witness personal stories, improve your mental health education, and acquire valuable resources for optimizing your well-being. Delve into the raw and courageous narratives of individuals who have thrived through adversity, gained clarity amongst the ashes, and emerged with an unshakable mindset. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.
Hello and welcome to the Emotion Wellness Podcast. My name is Jason Turner. I'm here with Frank Parisi and our honored guest, Quincy Carter.
Quincy, man, this is awesome. I'm super excited to have you here today.
I am too. I haven't seen you in a minute either, man. It's good to see you.
Really good to see you, bro.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate the fact that you're here. I don't have a lot of familiarity with you. We talked about our first meeting at a center a while back. And truth be told, I'm not really an avid sports watcher. So I'm very curious.
You told me that.
Yeah, so I'm very curious to ask you some questions. I have a curiosity, and I'm totally interested in that lifestyle. It's just not, I don't keep up with it, and I'm not in the loop. So I will apologize right away.
By the way, same face too. He brings me back every time he speaks because he actually told me this too. Yeah, and that face right there.
One thing about me is I don't change. I'm who I am 100% of the time. So I would really like to know a lot about your story, but currently, what are some things right now that you are working on, some things that you have going? You know, how do we get here, right? How did you end up in the studio? And I know you and Frank have a relationship, and I'd be really interested to hear what's going on in your life currently.
Well, man, how I got here currently today, man, is being faithful to the process of recovery. And letting God, for the first time in my life these last 5.5 years, letting him lead my life and get the heck out of the way. And we talk about it in step 3, letting God have your will, and it's his will. So first off, I want to say that's how I got here.
I love that.
Yeah. But man, God's got me busy right now. I've got my foundation that I started here a couple years ago before I left Texas and went back home to Georgia. So I'm very, very busy with that. We've been able to, really help a lot of families.
Talk about that.
Yeah, can you tell me what that, like, what do you do? What's the mission of the foundation?
Well, our mission is to advocate for safe and drug-free communities. We do that through speaking engagements. We do that through camps. We got annual events that we have, back to school event that we have before the kids go back to school in July. We've got our turkey drive that we do. It's kind of changed from year to year. Last year we gave out just a bunch of turkeys to families in need.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this year though we were able to collaborate with a food bank indicator to actually feed the unhoused, which was pretty cool. To be on the grounds of that. And then we have our annual camps that we have. And so our annual football camps. We're adding baseball this year, so we'll have our first annual baseball camp because I play a little baseball in my day. And then we've just been able to add, things onto, to our foundation, helping families in need of groceries. Digging into the community, I understand there's a big need, to feed families these these days because of our economy. I don't want to get too political about that, so I'll leave that alone. But it's a big need. So we've been able to fill in the gaps and collaborate, with different foundations and help people. So God, man, is just leading me in so many directions within our foundation right now, and it's a beautiful thing.
How long ago did the inspiration for the foundation come up?
I would say, honestly, it was me, kind of just having one of those moments. It hadn't been like I wanted one when I was with the Cowboys or it was on my mind. I can't even think exactly what day and time, but it was just, one of those moments that I was having, like, how can I further help people, and I've been able to, collaborate with different people, brainstorm about thoughts around what I want to do, how I want to help. I know it did start with just me wanting a good foundation for quarterbacks, to be able, to get the training that they need. And I know that I can bring to the table, and also my expertise as far as, getting on campuses, dealing with coaches, kind of the background of things of college football and the X's and O's of it, and not just the glamorization of getting on campus and doing a campus visits with all the lights and cameras. But, the grind of it. And so that's kind of how it started. And then with brainstorming with my team, having guys like Frank on my team, doesn't hurt you at all. We've been able to just let God lead us into other avenues. And it's just been a beautiful thing.
I love that.
Oh, real quick plug. Go donate to Quincy Carter Foundation. Look at all the beautiful things that it does.
Where would I do that at? Is it just search the Quincy Carter Foundation? Or?
Well, on my website, and it's thequincycarterfoundation.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm on his board. I don't know if anyone knows, but I am on his board, so go follow Quincy. You'll be seeing more of me with him.
So you have the foundation, and did I hear you and Frank, are you talking about, are you writing a book?
I am. Yeah. Now, the book is something that I've always wanted to write. Heck, I was talking about my goddamn book in the middle of my addiction, but then them thoughts was like, how in the heck are you gonna write a book right now with these thoughts? But and where I was anyway. But God has led me to get in the right space right now to be able to write it. It's been a couple times through my recovery. Early, after about a year or so, that I wanted to write it. And my sponsor, my father, and everything else, I call him my angel on earth, Hollywood Henderson. He said, no, it ain't the time. So I've been praying about the last few years. And here about a year ago, went back into, the thoughts, and we can act like it's not God. But he started knocking on the door. And so then I have to go into those deep prayer moments, meditation. And it took me a little while to come to it. Matter of fact, my guy, Kelly Cole, Book of Athletes, I met him at a camp. And I want to say it was like April or May, down in LaGrange, Georgia. And I had been in the prayer about this thing, interviewing people here for about like a full year. And I met with Kelly, and it was like just the perfect, match made in heaven meeting. And we met. We started talking about what he does, and lo and behold, because he was a good friend of Walt Harris, former NFL player, and lo and behold, he has his own company that writes books, Book of Athletes. Yeah, and it's funny though. So I took that conversation. I told Kelly, hey, let me go back into prayer about it. And it took me about 2 or 3 weeks. Came back to him. I said, Kelly, man, I feel it, but let me go into prayer again about it. And then the craziest thing, I can't remember. The one thing I can't remember about one of those moments that kind of led me, hey, I think this God, but it was Turk from the Hot Boys. And I met him through another buddy of mine's, Wicked, who used to raps now with Ghetto Mafia, Beehive, big podcaster in Atlanta, and I met Turk on the elevator. And, we hit it off. He sold me his hot sauces, with spices that he had to go on different foods and chicken wings. And so, we were just kind of casual friends here, texting a little bit. And just out the blue, he just one day just writes me this big old outline and said, hey, man, you need to write a book. And I said, wait a minute, that's the call right there. So so then I called Kelly back, and Kelly said, man, this is the biggest prayer I've ever seen somebody go into. But that's how adamant I am to hearing from God, man. I took heart and whole to step 3, man, and I don't mean to be cliches, but I did because I never knew what giving my will over to God was. I thought it's been all me. Shoot, God didn't bless me so much. Shoot, now what, you giving me all this talent? Now I make the decisions, right? No, they hadn't been like that. It's never been like that, but I found what that truly means, and so I finally let Kelly know, hey, it's time.
I love how all the pieces come together, right? So
it's beautiful, man.
When you're on the path, and God and the universe are doing its thing.
Yeah.
Had you always had a background or like a concept, a belief, faith in spirituality, higher power, God?
I had. My mom, gave me that, instilled that into me. As a young kid, I can see myself right now at Magruder Baptist Church in Atlanta, in my little suits she used to dress me up in. And I started to really understand God. I want to say about 12 or 13 after I got baptized, and doing more of the hard work, and that's reading the Bible more, reading help books, The Purpose-Driven Life, reading the books like The Prayer of Jabez, and just really starting to feel God for the first time. But then within that, we like to say the enemy hears your prayers too. Mm-hmm. So then I started having things creep in on me, that the enemy could distract me with.
Mm-hmm. I definitely relate to that for sure. So. When did one of the questions I have regarding the sports is when did you know, like, that obviously it takes an incredible talent, effort, person to rise above all of the competition to make it to the highest level of the sport, right? Mm-hmm. Was there a moment where you just sort of knew, like, this is my destiny, this is where I'm headed, like, or that you were different, or that you were, does that make sense what I'm asking?
It makes a lot of sense. Man, it's 2 moments. One, when you're asking that question, what popped up in my head is me being a 10-year-old. And I played at Gresham Park in Decatur, Georgia, but our season ended. So back in those days, you can get picked up, by another team around the metro Atlanta area, but it had to be, I think, within 50 miles. And I got picked up by this team called the Forest Park Pirates. And I never forget, we were playing Puerto Rico and hitting a grand slam in the championship series, but you had to lose 2. So Puerto Rico hadn't lost yet, but hitting the grand slam to win that game, to force another game, which we ended up losing to Puerto Rico. But that was my biggest moment as a youngster. And then, for baseball, and really for the belief that I can really do something, you know what I mean, in sports. But I think for football, it was the LSU game against LSU down in Baton Rouge. We were like 3 or 4-0. I think we had just cracked the top 10 But I had some other guys still on my tail. One guy who was hurt. I forgot Ben's last name. Sorry about that, Ben. If you're gonna be watching, but Ben got hurt preseason, but he was still one of the top, dogs around Georgia as a recruit coming in. So, so it was little whispers that, hey, now he's healthy. You mess up in this LSU game, your job may be gone the next week. And in that LSU game, the lights came on, and I let it go. Yeah.
Was mindset? We do a lot of that mindset talking story work at our center, and it's been a big part of my life. It's something I struggle with, but was your mindset one where did you struggle with like a self-image or talking yourself up? Did you naturally going into a game, were you able to give yourself positive talk?
I think I was, now having a lot more knowledge and wisdom about it, being in recovery and being in the business space of recovery. I understand it more now. But I think my mindset, came from my mom, my belief in God, and then also me having this only child, like loneliness, weirdness about me when I was by myself. And like, man, listen, no matter what, we're going to be great, and that self-talk. And I don't even know if self-talk was around that day. I mean, back in the day, but it was self-talk in that mirror. It was those moments in the living room, counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like I'm Jordan. And you know how we had the little basketball net that we hung on the door. It was those moments that I had by myself, and just those thoughts and beliefs that one day we're going to be somebody.
And so you were only child?
Only child.
Oh, me too.
Heck yeah.
Wow.
Get out. We never knew that. I never knew that about you.
I never knew that either. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's crazy. Great question.
I'll pass it to you.
Me? Where did you grow up, Quincy?
I grew up, I was born in Bloomington. I like to always brag and say Chicago, but my parents were both born in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago. But I was born in Bloomington, went to Chicago out the hospital for about 3 or 4 years. It's funny, my dad tells one story, my mom tells another. But anyway, at 3 or 4, we went to Decatur, Atlanta area, and that's where life for me started to begin, and that's where I grew up at Decatur.
And then did you play football? You started when? How old were you?
Well, I started baseball first.
Okay.
Baseball was my first sport I played at 7 years old. And football didn't really come into my life till about 9 or 10.
Okay.
Yeah, so baseball was my first love, and then there's some basketball in there. All my friends like to say I never could play, but wasn't nobody just dogging me out on that basketball court. I ended up quitting my junior year in high school. I think I ended up giving it up for good. But I had some basketball in my blood, and can still play now. Anybody listening? Where's that camera? Which one we on? Try me one-on-one.
You got one over here too.
Okay, yeah. Try me one-on-one one day. All that junk y'all be talking, but they be joking with me on social media. But I could never play no basketball. Whatever.
Let me ask you this: what led you to down the road towards addiction, bro? Like, what was the internal deal? Like, what was that? Like, for me, it was my childhood. It was like I never felt that love in the home. I always felt different than everybody, and then when I found drugs, it made me feel part of. Like, what was it for you?
I think for me, having that first experience and liking, I didn't like, drinking. I threw up beer when we had this dumb drink off with 40s. I threw that up. But the first time I, touched weed, smoked some weed, I thought I fell in love with it. Now, it wasn't as prevalent through my high school life like that, because I played so many sports and, I was so busy, so I didn't get to, do the dumb stuff all the time. But when I did, I thought I fell in love. And right after high school, there was some pressure, I think, within me that I wanted to try to, be a grown young man. I was always mama's boy. And so I started, hanging out a little bit and doing some things I ain't had no business doing. And that weed habit picked up for me until the weed wasn't good enough no more, until I needed something stronger. But I think the base of where I started was just that love affair. Now things mounted, into me hiding, from my fame or, me just, wanting to kind of stuff some feelings, as my addiction kept going along. But my initial, usage came from, me having a love affair and loving to be high. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you didn't really start messing around until you were in college?
No, this was high school. I got drafted in baseball, right after high school. I went to Florida, rookie ball, didn't do anything. It's kind of like, as I've been kind of retelling my story of my life, first 3 or 4 weeks into something, hey, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to play ball. And then I remember down in Fort Myers, Florida, after about 3 or 4 weeks, body started getting tired. Now I'm starting to, fade focus-wise, and then I started hanging with some of the older guys and basically started smoking, every day after we got done playing, because we would play our games in a drooling 12 o'clock Florida heat. And, after that, we were done till the next morning, to 7 o'clock, because that's how rookie ball went. And started hanging around, smoking a lot more. That off season, started picking up more because now I want to go to the clubs. I'm only 18. How the heck I was getting in there anyway? Don't mean to tell on nobody. I didn't name the clubs, though. But anyway, but that started, picking up more. Then through baseball the next year, now it's a full, season of minor league ball from training camp in February, to the end of September or middle of September, and it's a long season. And it started picking up more and more, so it just started getting it's like a big snowball you put at the top of the hill and you just let it roll, and it just started picking up more and more steam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when did it shift? When did you find recovery? Well,
finally, I like to say 2017 was really my best attempt. As a matter of fact, I went to rehab here, which I call my best attempt, here in San Antonio, sober, and ended up getting into a fight there and getting kicked out, and going over to sober in Malibu. And I put together, about 11 months before money started getting in the picture. Started thinking about money. Was rewarded a little bit and took off out of Malibu back down to South Texas. I mean, the real South Texas, McAllen, Mission, Edinburgh, yeah. But that, 2017, was backed up with 8-9 other attempts from about 2005. Right. But in 2017, my story never changed from 2006. I was broke in 2006, flat broke, so going to rehab, being broke already, coming out, trying to recreate my life. And the craziest part about it is I think about this, coming out in 2007 being broke and basically trying to use football, whether it was arena football, Canadian football, you know, as a moneymaker, and not even thinking about, man, we're in the midst of pretty much your NFL career is gone. Some type of life outside of you playing has to get started. But those thoughts, you know, I think we can all speak on that. Those thoughts never even enter your brain, you know, because you're so, you know, defeated. You're such in the cycle of your addiction, and they don't even register. So 2017, I like to say it was my best attempt. I ended up relapsing and coming back again, back on my knees in 2019, and I'm down back in South Texas again. I call it my safe haven, which wasn't unsafe about it, but just painful. And anyway, so I come back in 2019, and I never forget Pacquiao and Thurman fought that night. And I tell this story, man. Me and my ex-girlfriend went to the Pacquiao and Thurman fight. Well, we went to a fight party. And one of my I don't know if it was rare. I like to say I didn't have that many blackouts, but how the hell can we know how many blackouts we had? But I very vividly remember going to the fight with her and calling her at 4 o'clock in the morning to pick me up. I never knew she left because we went to the party together.
Right. And
that morning, the same thing happened. Me and her getting into it. Me, you know, feeling like SHIT. And somehow we were, you know, discussing in the middle of an argument or something, and man, I just bawled out, started crying. Prayed a little bit, and the next thought was, you know, call Hollywood. I hadn't really talked to Hollywood about rehab because he knew I was, you know, back out. And I called him and said, man, I need help. And he told me, he said, hey, Quincy, this is my last time trying to help you, you know, because he feel like I'm just aiding it, you know, aiding really my homelessness. Oh, I get tired, I'm homeless, I get to the point where I'm not even training kids or nothing. Now let's go to rehab, because that was the cycle. And he called Marsha Stone. And man, Marsha came within 5 hours, you know, how long it takes from Austin to get to South Texas or what have you, and picked me up. And, you know,
good people like that, man. I'll be honest with you, she really is.
Marsha, and she's on my board also.
She's she's good people, man.
So 2019, you know, July 22nd is when I, you know, like to say that's when this recovery really, really, you know, started for me.
Awesome.
Were you playing the first attempts at getting sober? Were you active in the NFL?
Absolutely. My first rehab was actually when Bill Parcells was coming in to be our coach. And he said there's no way he can be our quarterback unless he go clean up, you know. And this was when I first got into the drug program in 2002, before the season. So I played that whole season, before I got benched after about 7 games. I played that season getting into the drug program, and so once the season ended, Bill Parcells gets named our coach, and he said, hey, he got to go get some help.
So when you're a player in the NFL, when this issue shows up, how does it work? Do you self-ID? Did someone identify it, like your teammates or a coaching personnel? And then when you say getting into the drug program, is that the NFL drug program?
Yeah, NFL drug program.
How does it work? I'm curious.
The crazy part about this, and so many guys have our issues but don't understand it. If I told you there's only one time they can test you before the season, and you know particularly when those times are going to be, and they're when you go to OTAs, we used to call them mini camps. When you go to mini camps, OTAs, or training camps, those are the only times. And we fail those tests to get in the drug program. Yes. And so, those are moments that when I look back, that my addiction was steamrolling down that hill a long time ago, because these are the only times you can get tested. And here's the craziest part. When I got put in the drug program, I was the group that had to take that test during training camp. So it was a month and a half space in between the last mini camp and training camp that I knew I was going to get tested in training camp.
Still.
I stopped 2 or 3 days before training camp. Yep, and try to mask everything. And then I ended up getting tested like the 3rd or 4th day, and still got, still failed the test to get put in the program.
So if you're in training camp and you were to have passed that test, you wouldn't have been tested again for the rest of the year?
For the rest of the year, you don't get tested.
Why do you think that is?
I could say many things. The NFL is $1 billion business. And so if everybody's been put in the program,
I get it. I mean, I was curious what your thoughts were. I'm the guy I got a lot of stories. I don't need a lot of information to make up stories. And, it's unfortunate, that I think the individual person like yourself is the one who's going to suffer, right? Because you're not, maybe something happened early in the season and you got caught. It would have been more helpful to you, but not beneficial to revenue and all the other stuff, right? So,
of course.
Yeah.
And that happens in every place. There's money to be made. We're not picking on the NFL. We're not. But
business is business. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. But let's kind of go ahead a little bit on that, or stay on that topic. But that's why it's so good now that so many different programs are put into place within the structure of the NFL. And then not only that, the awareness, this conversation, this podcast we're having, me telling about my F-ups.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
the boldness of us now speaking out. We wouldn't have done this probably not even 20 years ago.
Nope.
Maybe there were stories here and there.
Yeah.
You get on Oprah, you go ahead and say, bump it. Let me just go on and tell it all.
Yeah.
But the awareness of it now, how we can help people.
The instant accessibility too. Now that with social media, right? We have these different. Everybody can create a platform, and I do see. My mission is to really help change the stigma around mental health in general, and I see this as that, right? It's the ability to reach an audience, tell stories, and I do think it is getting much better. And there isn't there a couple of years ago I had a friend who was involved with. Is there like an NFL affiliate program, or like it's like isn't there like some mental health aspect?
Believe so, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
What's it called?
NFL Trust.
Yeah. Right.
NFL Trust, which I personally work with hand in hand. Tyrone Allen is our president, who goes around relentlessly trying to get us in the right programs, connecting with different rehabs, IOPs, sober livings, to give us the right avenues and people to be around. And he does a great job. Well, I was just telling Frank, that's who I'm going to meet with on the 8th of January. Yeah, so we're fighting this thing every day, man.
I love it. We got to get him out here to check us out. Man, Emotion.
We got to.
Yes,
we got to. Yeah.
Another question that runs through my brain, it's a little bit off the recovery topic, but when the fame hit for you and that, you started that process, was there anything that surprised you, like that you hadn't maybe thought of or were like, didn't see coming?
Yeah, at some point, especially I would say my third year, we went to the playoffs, and that hit another wave of kind of fame. You know, Cowboys hadn't been to the playoffs in a while, and people talked about that like we had won the Super Bowl or something. And that off season brought another set of like, whoa, because I was going out Kroger. I love to stay around Los Colinas area when I go to Dallas. I guess I subconsciously be reliving some of that, but in a good way now because I'm sober. But I used to go to the Kroger, which I just got my daughter's birthday balloons and cake or whatever there. And I used to go to Kroger, you know, when I wanted to, in and out for 3 years. And that off season, man, I couldn't even go to our Kroger anymore. Yeah, and it reached another level. And whoa, like I'm signing autographs and pictures. And I'm like, wow. And it felt, you know, and I say this with all humbleness, it felt a little unhuman a little bit. You know what I mean? But that's the level of, you know, our fans as Cowboys fans. Yeah. You know, I try to downgrade it as much as I won't. But man, we got some of the best fans in the world, but that was a different level of fame, man.
Yeah, I don't have anything to compare it to. That's why I was asking. Because it seems like it would be really challenging, you know, there's this, and just on a very small scale in my life, it's, you know, the trauma and the stuff that I experienced. It's like, I want to be seen, right? So see me. Oh, shit, they're looking at me. Like, that's just in a normal, everyday experience. It's not in a national spotlight. Can't even go to the grocery store. Yeah. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody knows who I am. It's just really curious. So I appreciate you answering that question.
Yeah.
But that's you say that lightly, but that's one hell of a feeling to be so vulnerable, as you just put it. You know, in the space that you want people to see you, and then hold your shoulders up and believe. And whether it's God, whether it's a higher power, whether it's, you know, the I am statements, whatever you have to go through to get yourself back up on your feet and to deal with your trauma. Shoot, Jay, I ain't taking that lightly now. Yeah. It takes a grown man, you know what I mean, to wipe them tears off and then present yourself in front of people dealing with your own stuff. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna let you just brush that off as lightly.
Oh yeah, I hope I don't want to come across that way. I was really just more. No, I feel I'm somebody who I lean into the vulnerability, and it took me a long time to get to a place where my story wasn't. My mindset about myself wasn't really negative. In fact, 2018 I was 18 years sober. So 2022 I was 18 years sober, and I was, you know, almost took my life, you know, without ever picking up a drink, and I used to wear that as a badge of honor. Like, well, at least I didn't drink, but I was like, dude, you probably should have. Like, you might not have, you know what I mean? Like, I had so much stuff going on and so much inner critic. And so I certainly don't take it lightly. I had a lot of support. God pulled me out of my shit again. But I did a lot of work. I mean, it was 9 months of a lot of just dealing with my stuff. And I would have never been able to pull off this business had I not gone through that, you know. And I just wasn't ready. I couldn't have done a podcast. There's no way I would have been able to do a podcast without imposter. The questions I ask you are very close to my heart, because I struggled with imposter syndrome for a really long time. So this idea of, in the military, I was top performer. I did a lot of really cool stuff, and like wherever I go, I've been able to like produce, but how I see myself is really low. You know, I never could own my abilities or feel good about the process. And so this process allowed me to do that, you know, and I can't imagine what it would be like with your level of fame and the eyes that were on you. You know what I mean? That's a lot of pressure.
Everything I'm dealing with internally too. Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
It was.
And to be pinned in, I feel like, and maybe this was your experience, this is just my observer from a distance, it's a really challenging place to be, right? Because you have all this pressure to perform, a lot of money on the line, most people are more concerned about your performance than who you are and your personhood. And so even bringing up like I'm struggling, what do people do with that? It's like, well, don't struggle, man. You got to get back in the game, and you know.
And that's the part I didn't talk about. You know. But that just reminded me. I was on some podcast, and I won't bust one of my teammates out. And I was on some podcast, and I'm about a year in, so I've got every step, book work, every fear in step 4, every sex inventory, all that just bottled up right here. And I don't know what the heck to do with some of these feelings that I'm feeling for the first time and not masking them. But I mentioned of me dealing with some of the pressures of, you know, being the Cowboys quarterback. And then I had somebody on the podcast say, oh man, that's just an excuse. You know what I mean? But I'm like, and I felt some kind of way of trying to dig into maybe it being another answer I can present. But I know where my heart was, you know what I mean? And I knew where I was. And no, those pressures was real. You know what I mean? But, you know, people look at addiction differently. You know what I mean? But now we have been able to do some of the hard work, especially at BRC, the work we put in, Frank, heck, you know, and really dig into every emotion of someone. And then sometimes you overthink things. And then you got to peel it back a little bit and pray and see if it's real or not. But a lot of these things, I mean, we've basically went and dug for gold, you know what I mean, for months. And in some ways, probably not as, you know, thorough at all times. We're still doing that right now. And so it's funny you just said that too. Well, you just asked me about that because there was another level of fame, but then there was another level of pressure too. Yeah. And then I think for the first time after that 4th year, because now this is my first year when I was full in the program and wasn't smoking either, and so I couldn't hide some of that for. So and I eventually went to go masking in 2004, that off season, and mess around with a Wizardinator, hiding the weed for months, probably starting in about April or May. But anyway, what I was getting ready to say though, I think that was the first time I started feeling the Troy Aikman ghost. Yeah, that 2004 season, because I came in, I wasn't saying bump Troy, but, you know, I was just so eager to be in the NFL when somebody told me I wasn't going to be able to play because of how things ended my junior season or whatever. You know, Cowboys shouldn't have drafted me, this and that. So I was just set to prove that I could be here in the NFL. So I wasn't even feeling Troy Aikman's ghost then because, hell, they said I can't even play. Like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? I played some pretty good ball at Georgia. But then that 4th year, heading into that off season, I started to feel them ghosts. Yeah.
Interesting.
I can't imagine.
Man. And then you went out to the Jets, right?
Yeah, that was about 3 weeks. Went down to John Lucas for about 3 weeks after I got cut. And then the Jets picked me up about 3 weeks later. Heck yeah.
You stood out there for about a year?
Yeah, only a year. Yeah, I had a infamous last week of the season. You know, I was so miserable up in New York. No, I hate to say it like that, but I had just got cut. I just got cut from America's team. Everybody pretty much was saying Quincy's a junkie. The New York fans will let you know too. Cleveland was the worst though. I never forget. We started. I started. I think that was my second game. Started in Cleveland, and I was so many snugger boogers and cocaine this, and oh man, it was bad. But the last week of the season, I was done at that point. And, you know, man, that thing started calling me again. I wanted to smoke, I wanted to drink, pop pills. And we was coming back from San Diego. And I'll never forget, man, we came back late, I think about 11, 12 that day or something like that by the time, you know, because California time. And I wasn't even thinking about Pittsburgh. I was thinking about how can I take this pain away? This is just too much.
Wow.
You know, we're in the playoffs. You know, the year before, I'm starting in the playoffs. Now I'm back on the bench, you know, watching Chad Pennington play. And I had to use, man. And, you know, at that time, you know, you can kind of dodge the piss man or whatever, but I had to say I was going out of town. The week started a little bit earlier because we were playing on Saturday. So now we got to practice on Tuesday now, which we're coming back already basically Monday, you know, afternoon. And so basically I had to go away by the time I'm ducking and hiding from the piss man. It's Thursday. Now, our offensive coordinator is saying you don't know much of the game plan, so we can't even let you travel. Not even play, but travel. I watched that playoff game, you know, from my extended stay. I was so miserable in New York. I never got a house, apartment, nothing. I stayed in a Marriott extended stay.
Where?
In Long Island.
Wow.
Yeah, in Long Island. And so yeah, that's how my season ended. Watching our playoff game, we ended up losing. And watching my playoff game, and after that season, I went to rehab. I'm watching the Super Bowl pregame, and Chris Mortensen comes out and pretty much tells the story of, you know, he said I went to rehab during the season. But I actually was in rehab after the season, you know what I mean? But was telling the world that story on Super Bowl Sunday. And I had to watch that. I had to watch him tell that story.
Wow.
How, you know, I
didn't know
relapsed. And yeah, and after that season, I don't think I talked about that on really a podcast. But anyway, so I had to watch that on TV. Him telling that story while I sat in rehab.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my anger was so much heightened, you know, after that, kind of wanting to know what the deal was with the Cowboys, because technically they didn't release me the right way, and we filed a grievance against them. I was worried about that so much. The word on the street, what really happened, how did I get cut, what substance was it with the Cowboys, and not even seeing that I was falling to complete pieces. You know, I couldn't even see it. Took myself out the drug program because I told the NFL, hey, if the Cowboys, if we can't have a little court hearing or whatever, then why am I going to be taking tests for you? Take myself out the drug program. So now teams know, you know, because they talk behind closed doors. He's not even taking tests. How can we even bring him in to work me out? I do that all the way until June. Herm Edwards told me to sign back with him. It was going to be, you know, the noise was going to be pretty loud. Hey, you can sign back with us, you know, and you got a job here. Now, coach, you know, I want to do the free agent thing. By that time, June, I tried to jump back in the program, this and that. All my job offers were gone. And then I didn't play again that year. I didn't play that year and never played a snap ever in the NFL again.
What year was that?
That was 2005. Yeah. Got a good opportunity with Bill Parcells, though. I was playing up in Kansas City. Went to rehab down in Florida, Hollywood. That's the first time Hollywood put me in rehab in 2007. Was sitting up watching the Kansas City Brigade arena football game. They were like 1-7. I personally called Kansas City the next day, get signed by them. Within like 2 days, Hollywood was pissed. because he was talking to Bill Parcells the whole time. That I'm down here, I'm getting myself back rehabilitated, I'm in recovery. He was getting ready to give me a shot. Well, I'll go up there and play in Kansas City. End up only playing like the last 3 games. Bill Parcells calls me in the middle of training camp that year. Was that 08 now? Yeah, 08. And I had a great workout, but I relapsed hell about a week into being in Kansas City. So I'm back through the cycle again. I tried to master the test, literally, and Bill's telling the story in my book right now, but literally, he told me to go back to the hotel. We're going to work out the deal with Eugene Parker, my agent, rest in heaven. That was my man, too. But I was waiting at the hotel for a couple hours, but that feeling you get. Like, wait a minute. I feel good about this because I had a great workout, though, because I was up there working out in Kansas City, everything. And then he came back a couple hours later and said, hey, man, we can't even test the test, so there's no way we can sign him. Yeah.
As the word got out, or as the process, and I'm sure it was started long before that 08 situation you were just talking about, but was the chatter that was coming out about you, how did you handle that? Like, what was the process of? I just think about just a silly comment on social media.
No, but that's got to be a lot.
Like, how did that impact you? And then what were you? How did you deal with that?
Man, I was in denial because the chatter started out of college. About me smoking and everything. That noise was loud. Me coming into the draft. As a matter of fact, I signed an agreement if I ever got suspended that the Cowboys can come back. If I ever got suspended in the NFL drug program, the Cowboys can come back and get all, my signing bonus. So that's how my deal was set up. But I was in denial. I was lying, saying I wasn't. And just dealing with life. And I think you two who've had some pretty successful lives can attest to, trying to be great, but having other things hold you back. And but I blocked it out. And then my, only child syndrome played a big part. We're going to make it no matter what. Hell, I've been looking in that mirror since 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I mastered by that. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
But your book, your foundation, what else do you have on the stove? You talked about a job, I think, that you were... I don't want to give away anything if you're not open to talking about it. But.
No, training quarterbacks. I take pride in, having my own QB school and teaching these young guys, first the grind of everything, and then understanding what it really takes to be an NFL quarterback. Because every camp, workout, whatever I'm doing, where I'm at, everybody says they want to be an NFL quarterback. Okay, well, do you know X, Y, and Z has to happen on a daily basis? And that's what I take pride in, and being able to be around a lot of good coaches in my life. It's almost like I'm able to give them everything that's been put into me. So it's really, really cool, man.
If you had one thing that you had to boil it down to for a kid in one of your camps that says, I want to be an NFL quarterback, what's the one, if you had one piece of advice or one suggestion, what is it?
It's you got to understand that, 1A, 1B, you got to understand that you're the CEO of a company. And of course, there's an owner, but you're the CEO, and you have to conduct yourself like it. And the B, 1A, 1B is the grind. You got to understand the grind. It's not to be turned on and off. It's always to be on. And even on a day off, you know, a day off looks like maybe a massage, maybe, you know, watching some film, maybe getting some sleep that's needed. But that button and those thoughts and that drive and the will that you got to have to be an NFL quarterback, man, it's all, they're like always got to be flipped on.
I kind of hear obsessed.
Do you? I am.
I think that if you want to be great in anything, you have to be obsessed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who talk about work-life balance.
You know what I mean?
And I feel like that's not for
greatness.
people pursuing greatness.
No, it's just not.
And that's the thing, you know, you're talking about it with quarterbacks. I've had people ask me questions since we started Emotion, just on a smaller level of what's it like to run a business or pursue something that I'm after, which is bigger than just an IOP. Like, we're trying to make a difference in the eyes of insurance companies and the mental health space at large, you know. And it's like, what did it take, or what does it take? And I always answer with everything in a gram. You know, it's like everything plus. You know, and, well, what's your backup plan? Like, there isn't one. Like, you know, like, I burnt the ships, man. Like, this is, it's all in 100%, and it's every day. And
It is.
And
Today's
it's not,
Sunday.
you know, it's not quarterback, and it's not at the level of, you know, professional sports, but I have to look at myself, and Frank and I are very similar. I look at myself as where I want to be in 5 years. Like, I'm acting like that CEO, right? I have to make decisions. I had a guy at the Riverwalk the other day, he basically almost attacked us. And it was like, in the moment, trying to figure out, okay, we're safe. Part of me really wanted to do some damage, but there's the human side of me, which is like, I'm trying to do right and be a good person. And I'm also like, I have a lot at stake. I can't just go around like acting like I used to and at the whim of my impulses. And I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about with these kids, and helping them see that, yeah, you're the CEO of a company. Like, you can't go out and party. You're going to study. You're going to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that balance. What you're talking about is it may be hard to find, but your balance, you know, could be, you know, you just sitting around and watching some TV, resting. But you got to find that, because even, you know, I try to, you know, downplay it about me going out and having a little fun. Maybe my, you know, rookie and second year, until Bill Parcells came in and said, "Hey, y'all know every strip club is ran by the mob." And so we kind of backed away from that a little bit, and some other things about police kind of business. You know, Bill was very knowledgeable to the streets, but
Bill was up in Jersey.
yeah,
he was.
He's very knowledgeable to those streets. But those were wasted days. Even though all of them didn't end up being drunken days, but why not have that fun at home? Why did everybody have to see you out, you know, smoking a Black and Mild, or smoking weed, trying to be cool, trying to fit in? You know what I mean? Those were wasted days. How did that benefit me? That's for family. You know, and finding that balance. And then, you know, with these kids and young men growing up in this social media, you know, era, it's tough, man. I've got a young man that needs help, you know, with his family as far as putting food on the table. But he's on Instagram flexing money. Well, wait a minute. Where you get money from? So now, if that don't put it in a nutshell for you, these kids are facing a lot, man, and to be able to be that balance, the blessing of it, I never thought I'd be saying this, but to be able to show, and all of them don't get it though, but be able to show kids your mistakes you know, because let's be honest, 50, 60% of them are going to say, well, that'll never be us, just like we did. You know what I mean? But showing kids your mistakes and trying to teach them how to learn from them, it's a blessing, man.
Yeah,
I love that.
I love it, brother.
It's a blessing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love this podcast today.
I do too.
It shows.
I feel like I just told my whole life.
I
like
love
twice.
it. Well, that's what you should be doing.
Hey,
man.
but
It gives the audience. This is what the audience needs to see.
But not only that, the people you're around bring the best out of you too.
100%, bro.
I'm set in stone on that.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say that the biggest changes that I've made in the last couple of years are super solid boundaries around who's in my life, who gets access to it.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's directly in correlation with how I feel about myself. So the more that I started to feel better about who I was as a human, who I was as a man, and then starting to make decisions in life that helped me to level up, it was like, yeah, I'm no longer going to play around with. And we talk about it all the time. Like there's this energy, there's frequency, there's vibration. And I just don't mess with a lot of people because they don't even know the vibration that they're bringing to the table. And I've suspended the belief that it's my job to tell them anymore. You know, I just let them be.
I agree.
And some of them know.
Yeah.
And some of them
You're
just
totally
be on a
right,
mission to get you off your rocker.
Absolutely. And even if they don't know, I look at like forces, right? Energy, and it's like there's always a battle going on. So
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
And Frank's helped me out with that a lot as far as his example, you know, being in the hospital and going through what he went through. And we were talking about the other day, the 5 miles a day and making everybody walk. And,
I made everyone
you know,
walk.
how do you go through that? I mean, it still blows my mind, right? Like, how do you experience that and still maintain positivity and say, keep bringing it versus like, this is bullshit. I can't believe it happened to me. Like, why didn't it happen to me? You know what I mean? Who am I to think that I'm not susceptible to that, right?
Absolutely. My mindset was not why me, why not me?
Yeah.
Why not me?
Which is amazing, dude.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what it is. It doesn't matter where we start in life or our current circumstance, right? As long as we have a vision for our life, we make agreements with ourselves, we shut the fucking noise, we bring in the right energy, frequencies, people to help us towards the mission, right? Towards the vision, and we take massive action every day. And then the shit takes it. It's not when it's going to happen, it's going to happen. The vision will become a reality through that process.
Let's go work out. Let me feed off this energy right now. Good God Almighty, let's go work out.
The thing I was just thinking of is different stories all have different backgrounds and different lives and reach different heights in various positions in life. None of what I thought was going to happen when I was 25 about my life happened, right? And I'm so grateful. But I could not have seen then, even just think of the prospect of getting sober, right? Oh, it sucks. Like, there's no way I want that life. And then fast forward 21 years later, and there's no way I would give it up. So many beautiful things that I imagine,
Are
like,
you kidding me?
You didn't have that vision. Maybe you did, but the experience you're having now with helping these kids through the pressure that you experienced of both reaching the highest level in the sport, but also having addiction and going through the trials and tribulations of starting and stopping and failing and the dishonesty. I wonder, and maybe you could answer that, but I'm guessing that process now is so important and valuable to you. It makes everything else make sense, almost feel worthwhile, right?
Absolutely. It gives me sense of purpose too. I think that's where it's at, you know, like, and you just said it, you wouldn't have traded these in for who you are today. And that's what I feel, you know, and I'm telling you, I hope I get to it one day, but that feeling of helping somebody, that direct, you know, that feeling you get as soon as you get off the phone.
I do, brother.
Or
it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Or you say the perfect thing to somebody, and you try to take credit for it, but
nah,
then you
it came through.
Like, you know,
it wasn't
God.
us.
Yeah. Like, I still can't describe that feeling, and I still can't fathom fathom how basically like I'm on a mission to tell somebody everything that I've done wrong just to help somebody else.
Right.
What? How does that?
But we get to do that. That's the beauty of it.
Like I'm taking pride in this.
Yeah.
And I still can't explain
But
it.
that's the beauty of this recovery deal, man.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of this, man. That's the beauty of it. And that's the thing that also people need to understand is like, your mess becomes your message.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's never a victim in life. It's always, I always tell people this, and I steal it from my friend Nick, but it's whenever we go through the hardest shit in life, if you ask yourself different questions, you get different answers. And it's always, what is the gift in what I'm going through? And what am I going to become because of it? Whenever we face adversity in life, when we ask ourselves those questions, we will get a different answer and a different outcome for where our direction of our life's gonna go. So, for whatever that's worth.
I'm really grateful that you gave us some time today.
Yeah, man.
Really grateful that you've worked through the stuff that you struggle with and the message and the mission that you're on with young people. I have a lot of respect for that. I want to thank you for that. That's really amazing. So
I'm so grateful that you came on. I'm grateful to be part of your foundation. I'm looking forward to 2025. Grateful. I'll be honest with you, I'm grateful for everybody in this studio today. I got my wife and my son on the outside. I got two of my very close brothers here. We got Jason over here. I have so much love and gratitude for life today. I just want to thank you, and I want to honor this room. I want to honor everyone in this building because there's a lot of love in this building right now for me personally. And I want to thank you for coming out here, man. You know, I really am, bro. I love you, bro. For real.
I love you too, man. Thank y'all. As we was setting up and everything else here, Jason reminded me of that conversation we was having here, about 3 years ago, maybe, when I first started in the business, man. So just connecting back with you, and then our connection, just been authentic, man, from day one. I was thinking about before we did the podcast, I had been thinking, we only did a little bit of business together, not much, but we met about 3 or 4 times. Sometimes, I don't know about y'all to be pissed at us or not now. Sometimes I don't even think we talked about a client, bro. I was thinking about that. That's always been real.
That's the best kind of business, yeah.
I know, right? Yes. So it's been real, man. So I appreciate y'all both because y'all elevated me to different heights. You can't reach elevation without being around elevation. And I totally did not just say that. That was God.
I love it. It's true, though. Rising tide raises all boats, bro.
There
right?
it is. There it is.
It's true. It's true.
good shit, man. Good shit.
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you,
y'all,
brother.
man.
Thank
you.
Awesome.
Thank you for connecting with us on today's episode of the Emotion Podcast, where we discuss all things mental health. Connect every week as we explore incredibly intimate stories of persistence and hope, delve into mental health education, and explore valuable resources. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.